back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time stopping by. I've been reading One Piece for the first time and I've decided I need to share. I've seen the live action adaptation that was on Netflix, but I've never watched the anime and I've never read the manga up until now. I'm thoroughly enjoying myself and do plan to continue on with the series, but before I do that, I kind of wanted to break down East Blue and some of my thoughts. This is going to be full spoilers, so continue watching at your own risk. So I've been into anime for a pretty long time, and I've recently really gotten into reading mangas. I've been reading some that I've never watched the anime for, and I've been reading some that I have previously watched the anime for, and I'm kind of getting to the source material. Specifically to One Piece, I never really knew what it was until the live action came out, and it was always described to me in one way. And that was that One Piece was the story of a boy named Luffy who met a pirate as a kid and was inspired to become not only a pirate, but the king of the pirates. And it follows that adventure. That is the most simplistic way to describe this story. What the story actually is that we follow Monkey D. Luffy and this crew he puts together as they go on an adventure looking for the world's greatest treasure, the One Piece. When Luffy's a kid, he gets inspired by Red Hair Shanks, a pirate that visits his town, to then become a pirate, but Shanks consistently tells him no. He shuts him down because he's not gonna put a kid on his pirate crew. And then Luffy, which we come to learn is in typical Luffy fashion, does something he shouldn't do. He eats the Gum Gum Devil fruit that gives him rubber stretching powers. There is a cost to eating the fruit, and specifically for Luffy, it's that he can't swim anymore. And on a side note, making a pirate who can't swim allows for so much hilarity. Realistically, it was a great choice, like very well thought out. Shanks leaves, the pirate crew leaves. Years later, Monkey D. Luffy sets out onto his own adventure, which brings us to the first story arc. Starting with the Romance Dawn arc, that is very much the introduction arc. It takes place, I think, over chapters 1 through 7, and it's really only here to set the story up for you. I almost walked away from the manga as a whole during the very first few chapters. I had to remind myself that it was just the initial setup, it was the background, it was necessary to get me to continue to want to read it. I think what I disliked the most is I had a really hard time with Captain Alvida, which is the first bad pirate we run into. Not a fan. I thought she was a little extra, a little much. I soon learned that extra and much is kind of just how these characters are made. They're kind of caricatures of regular characters, and a lot of manga is done that way, but for me it almost felt silly until I got used to the character style. I think the most important things we got from this first arc were definitely Luffy's origin story, and then getting to meet Red Hair Shanks for the first time and his pirate crew, and then obviously seeing Luffy eat the Gum Gum fruit and having his powers come to light. Dude, his powers, the rubber, the stretching, it's absolutely ridiculous and it shouldn't work. It should just be outrageous, but it works. It's so good. It's absolutely silly, but in the best way. The first thing Luffy needs to do once he decides to get on a rowboat and set sail is put together a crew. And ironically enough, the first person he has a real connection to is with a boy named Kobe, who is trapped on Captain Alvida's ship. And it's ironic because he wants to be a Marine, not a pirate, but him and Luffy still connect and they still get along and they still have that kind of dynamic in which they don't want to come after each other, they want to be friends, but they want the complete opposite things in life. And in fact, when they get to Shelltown, Luffy inspires Kobe to then go ahead and enlist, and he does enlist in the Marines at Shelltown. Shelltown is where Luffy does in fact meet his very first crewmate, Zoro. Zoro is hands down my favorite character. I don't care what anybody says. He is 10 out of 10 best character so far. And granted, I've only made it through East Blue, but still, best character. Zoro is a bounty hunter who hunts down wanted pirates. and he's been bounded to a post by the Marines. I love that Zoro ended up in this predicament because he was saving a little girl from Helm Eppo, who is Captain Morgan's like bratty, annoying kid. Again, Zoro was instantly a favorite for me. I loved that he wanted nothing to do with Luffy or being on his pirate crew, and Luffy's insistence that he would absolutely be joining his pirate crew whether he liked it or not. Fantastic. Their dynamic is really, really great, and it sets them up for a lot of comedy coming forward. I can tell that they're just going to be hilarious all the way through. The next arc is the Orange Town arc, and that's covered through chapters 8 through 21. And this arc is what turned me around on the manga full-heartedly, and it's because they introduced Buggy. It's because they introduced Buggy. I love him. He's just so entertaining, and it's enjoyable to read. He's taken over Orange Town with his crew. He has his very own devil fruit that lets him split apart and come back together, which is kind of terrifying. Whereas Luffy's devil fruit is just sort of silly. I think it's a good point to note that this is the first time we've seen someone other than Luffy with a devil fruit power. So there's that. Another thing about Buggy is that he's pretty pathetic. He comes off as absolutely pathetic because he's so insecure about his nose of all things. He legitimately thinks that everybody's making fun of his big round clown nose. It's a clown nose. It's a big red nose, and he feels that everyone's making fun of him for it. He was assigned clown at birth, and he's really taken that to be his full branding. His entire pirate crew is made up of circus performers, which is inspired. It's pretty entertaining. I think the most intriguing thing so far about Buggy, as far as the actual story is concerned and the plot, is that he knew Shanks. That's a connection he has to Luffy that they didn't know, that they're kind of like slipping in there, and he blames Shanks for eating the devil fruit. I liked that at one point in history, him and Shanks were on the same pirate crew. It was a great twist, and it was a really good way to kind of keep Shanks in the story without having him actually be in the story. As funny as Buggy is, this arc did take on a bit of a more emotional, serious turn as Buggy and his crew have taken over Orange Town. They've destroyed the town, they've taken the livelihood of the townspeople away, and it's really sad to see, it's devastating to see. It's the first time we really see the despair of some of the people, and it's not the last time, but it is one of the first times, and it takes a little bit away from the silly, but I think it's a good balance between here's humor and funny and entertaining, and then here's serious and sad, and I think I liked kind of the balance between that. I do have to touch on Nami. You've now met Nami, who I love. She makes a living by stealing from pirates, and Luffy is determined to get her on his pirate crew to be their navigator. She doesn't want to join Luffy, but eventually she does, and she makes it abundantly clear that the only reason she's joining up is because she wants the money. She's in it for the money. At this point, Luffy has 2 people in his crew. Neither of them want to be pirates and have any desire to be pirates. But at the same time, that kind of makes them the perfect companions for Luffy, who wants to be a different kind of pirate. He doesn't want to be a regular pirate. He wants to be a good pirate, an honorable pirate. And he's not going to find that with just regular pirates. So I think that's the point of getting him a crew that isn't made up of people who aspire to be pirates. The 3 of them work really well together, and it's just given off really great vibes. The next arc is the Syrup Village arc, and that spans chapters 22 to 41. And we get Usopp. Usopp is the town's resident liar. He runs through town yelling, "The British are coming!" No, I'm kidding. He runs through town yelling, "The pirates are coming," every day. Screams it through the town streets, and then the pirates never come, and everyone thinks of him as a liar. And to the defense of everybody else, Usopp tells some pretty tall tales. It's quite amusing how he literally can't help himself from being a pathological liar. Again, he loves telling those tall tales and those fibs, but you can tell that it comes from a good place, and he has a really kind heart. You see it from the beginning. Something else we learn about Usopp, which again, it kind of comes back around to making sure that Shanks kind of stays in the forefront of the story without actually being in the story is that Usopp's father is a member of Shanks's pirate crew, and Luffy has met him before in the past. It kind of gives Usopp and Luffy something to tie them together. I am really enjoying seeing these small connections to Shanks that we get throughout the story so far. I found Master Kuro's plan pretty entertaining. I'm not even sure if I'm saying his name right. Kuro? I'm not great with names, but I will try my best to say them as close to the pronunciation as I can get. So Captain Kuro is a little on the cold-hearted side. He infiltrates Kaya's family estate in order to kind of get rid of her and inherit all of her money. His crew, the Black Cat Pirates, have kind of been waiting for him to complete this plan. And what's really interesting, I think, is that while he is a wanted pirate, he's obviously been a pirate for a long time, he's a captain of his own crew, and he's a wanted criminal, he doesn't actually want the lifestyle of a pirate, from what I can tell. He wants the money so that he can kind of just live comfortably and not on a boat. The Straw Hat crew foils his plans, and they set sail with Usopp on the Going Merry, their very first pirate ship. Chapters 42 to 68 cover the Bharati arc, which is my favorite arc because it gives us the gift of Sanji. I love Sanji. Luffy and company end up at the Bharati. It's a restaurant on a ship in the ocean near the Grand Line. Luffy messes up, almost crashes the ship, and has to serve as a busboy of sorts for Zeph as punishment. In true Luffy fashion, it's hilarious. It's really, really funny. Him as like a chore boy for Zeph was pretty fun to watch. Sanji is a cook at the restaurant and an incredible flirt. He can't help himself. He loves to flirt. And much like the rest of us, is taken with Nami the first time he lays eyes on her. Like with a lot of these characters, even with the not so great characteristics of their personalities, you can still see the underlying good. So even though Sanji comes off as a playboy, overly flirtatious, you can still tell deep down he has a really good heart. He's very kind, and you just have to see past the playboy persona. Fun side note, my favorite dynamic is probably Zoro and Sanji. They're hilarious. I never stop laughing when they're in a panel together, ever. Getting the backstory of Zeph and Sanji and how they got shipwrecked and how Zeph gave Sanji all of the food and ate his own leg so that Sanji would have food was heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time. Up until this story, I didn't really like Zeph very much, and I still don't like him very much, but seeing how much he cared for Sanji warmed me up quite a bit. And then ever since they were shipwrecked together, they've obviously been working together on the Bharati, and they share a dream of finding the All Blue, a mystical part of the ocean that is said to have fish from all of the blues. Seeing the love between Zeph and Sanji and how much of that they put into the Bharati just makes it that much more devastating when it's attacked by the Craig Pirates. One of the ways that we see how kind-hearted Sanji is when he sees a starving man in Jin and offers him a meal. That same person ends up being a member of the Craig Pirates, and now him and Sanji are fighting. We kind of get to see the internal monologue from Jin on how he struggles with his loyalty to his Captain Craig and his debt that he feels he owes to Sanji because Sanji fed him. And in the end, he does end up betraying his captain. But it was nice to see that struggle from someone who wasn't a main character. Those types of internal struggles we see very prominent with all of the characters, and it's something that really keeps me coming back to the story. From here, things really pick up and a lot of things start happening. It took me a minute to reconcile all of the different things happening at once. The first thing I want to touch on is the fighting and the action and the combat. For me, action in manga is hit or miss. I either can keep up, like what's happening, can read along, understand the images, or it's the opposite in which I am completely confused. I can't tell who hit who, and it's just a lot. this hit for me, and it hit good. I was able to keep up. I liked it. It was entertaining. It was action-packed, and I could kind of see the momentum moving. The next thing I want to touch on is Nami dipping. No, Nami dipped. They're in the middle of this battle. They're fighting. Her crewmates need her, and she dipped. She said, peace. She left. And we're going to get back to Nami in a second, because obviously the next arc is going to follow very much her backstory and them going after her. While we are still in the Bharati arc, we also see the iconic Mihawk, the world's greatest swordman, show up. And, you know, because Zoro is Zoro, challenges him to a duel. Unsurprisingly, Zoro loses. As a Zoro fan, I hated that, but I know that it was necessary. What I really like, and I think the point of it, is that it doesn't deter him from his dreams. It just motivates him more. He makes a vow that the next time he sees Mihawk, he is going to win, and he's going to take that title from him, because that's his dream. At the end of this arc, we get Sanji joining the Straw Hats crew. He says a tearful goodbye to the Bharati and a tearful goodbye and a thanks to Zeph. And the Straw Hats leave on their next adventure, which is to chase down Nami. I want to make sure that we can all get together on one thing here, and that is that Arlong sucks. He's a jerk. I hate him. We all hate him, right? That's the consensus here. We have obviously reached Arlong Park, which is chapters 69 to 95. I really love that we focus quite a bit on Nami during this point. The bulk of this arc is very much Nami's backstory and her history and how she got to where she is, which I really, really enjoyed. At surface level, it looks like she's betrayed the Straw Hats and is really working for Arlong. What I enjoyed, I think, the most is that Luffy's unwilling to take that as the narrative. He refuses to believe that. He thinks that it's something else, and he believes that there is good in Nami, and he's gonna go get her. And that's what they choose to do, is to go hunt her down, because he knows that she's not the bad guy. I really felt for Nami as we got her backstory. It tugged at me seeing how she became a part of Arlong's crew and how she started working for the fishmen that have taken over most of the villages in the Konomi Islands. Nami is the only human in Arlong's crew, and it's specifically because he wants to be able to use her for her cartography skills. My heart literally broke when we got to the point that we find out that she's trying to save 100 million berry to kind of pay off any loans or anything due to free everyone in Cocoa Village, which is her home village. We found out that she was adopted by a former Marine alongside Nojiko, and the three of them together lived happily in a tangerine orchard. Where my heartstrings really tugged was when Belmere refused to deny her daughters. She wouldn't lie about them. And because of that, in turn, she had to sacrifice her life to save Nami and Nojiko. This arc was so emotional. I almost cried, I don't even know how many times. It was really, really sad, but I think it was really necessary. Getting to see Nami at her lowest and seeing how she can grow from there and seeing how much the support of Luffy and the crew mean to her, I think was really necessary kind of for her story and for her character growth. You know, and Luffy and the Straw Hats, they didn't give up on her. They were there to fight with her, and together they did fight Arlong and the Fishmen, and they did get to win that battle, and I think she really needed that, and she needed to see that they were going to be there for her to support her, and it's something we needed to see in her character. You know, Luffy makes it really clear that he sees her as a friend and not as a tool to be used, and someone he does care about. He's really open about the fact that he's not good at everything, because if he was, he wouldn't need a crew. And that's why he has a crew full of diverse people, because he isn't good at everything and he can't do it alone, and he knows that. We have reached the final arc in the East Blue Saga, and amazingly enough, it is only 4 chapters and so much happens. The final arc is Logtown, and it spans chapters 96 through 100. The Straw Hats are so close to the Grand Line, but they make a stop. They visit the death place of Gold Roger, who is the very last king of the pirates. Luffy, because he's, weird, is really excited to see the executioner platform. Not something, I specifically would want to go see. But, Luffy. While here, we meet another character who possesses powers from the Gum Gum Devil Fruit. It looks like Logtown is the home of a Marine base, and this specific Marine base is led by White Hunter Smoker, who has eaten the Devil Fruit and has the power to turn into smoke. Outside of Kobe, I hadn't found a Marine that I liked. I don't count Belmir because we didn't actually get to meet her. We only saw her in flashbacks. So active Marines, I haven't found a single one that I liked. I liked Captain Smoker. He's fair to his subordinates while still remaining firm. We've seen some of the other Marine captains and leaders be rude or even cruel to some of their subordinates. I mean, not far off from a pirate, to be totally honest, but he's not like that. He is very firm, but he is very fair, and he seems to treat them all well. And he also seems to have a pretty soft spot for kids, which I, swoon. I'm not gonna forget the ice cream thing anytime soon. There is a lot going on in these last few chapters, starting specifically with Zoro, who needs to replace his swords. In his search for looking for a new set of swords, he meets Tashigi, who is a swordswoman that reminds him of his childhood best friend. I really enjoyed this interaction because typically Zoro, who I love, is very stoic. He's a very stoic character, and meeting her kind of jars him, and in turn, she's very confused by his reaction to her. As it turns out, she's actually Smoker's second in command and has a dream of her own, which is to free all special swords from who she deems to be bad people. And Zoro actually does possess one of these swords. His is Wado, is the special sword that he does have. In these final few chapters, Buggy also makes a reappearance, which I love him. I love him so much. So entertaining. He shows up for a rematch to get his revenge on Luffy and decides he wants to execute him. I was not as excited to see Alvida. Now, granted, I think I'm a little biased because she was the first character that we met, kind of had that over-exaggerated everything, and I didn't like it, and I think that's just sort of carried on. I don't enjoy her. She's now teamed up with Buggy. She showed up again. I thought we were done with her, but I guess not. So she's teamed up with Buggy, and now the two of them are coming for Luffy. In the end, Luffy is rescued by a mysterious being or figure called Dragon, and they escape. We then get my very favorite scene of the entire East Blue Saga. And that's when they're on the boat on the way to the Grand Line, and they all say what their dreams are because they each have an individual dream that they want, and they've joined together to kind of chase those dreams. Some final thoughts that I have before going into the next saga is, at its core, it's a pirate story, and I love a good pirate story. I'm having so much fun with Luffy and the Straw Hats. I can't wait to explore more. I love the action sequence. The comedy is fantastic, and even some of the serious moments, while they can be kind of devastating and depressing, I think they balance really, really well. Overall, it's really well done. The humor is a little silly at times, but still really fantastic. Sometimes when you're looking at these different animes or mangas, the humor can get a little too raunchy or it can be a little too much. I think this is on the right side of silly, and it really is just very, very humorous. I enjoyed the characters in this story so much. The pirates, the Marines, the Straw Hats specifically, I liked them all, and I got the emotion I think I was supposed to have. For most of the Marines, I disliked them, but I think I was supposed to. For the pirates, with the exception of Buggy, again, I disliked them, but I think I was supposed to. And then I love every member of the Straw Hat crew, which again, I think I'm supposed to. Specific to the Straw Hat crew, I really enjoy the dynamic between all of them. I think they mesh so well together, and they feed off of each other in just the best way. I like that each of them has a dream that they want to achieve, and they all know that joining Luffy's crew is gonna get them to that dream faster. So we're not just chasing Luffy's dream of being king of the pirates and finding the One Piece. We're also following and chasing the dreams of every single member of the Straw Hats crew, and they all know that they're gonna achieve that better together than apart. I love a good magic system, and the Devil Fruit was a really, really cool addition to this story. It's a really unique concept. We haven't met many of the devil fruit users yet, but it's a really, really cool concept. I like that there is a price to pay for every fruit. So you get your magical power, but you're gonna have a consequence that goes with it. Like, i.e. Luffy can now stretch in his rubber, but he can't ever swim. I think my favorite thing and the thing that kept me going and the thing that's gonna really keep me is the found family aspect. The relationship that the Straw Hat crew have with each other and with Luffy is so endearing and so captivating that I kind of just want to keep reading to see how that relationship and that found family kind of grows. You know, they fit so well together as a whole. I know I've said that a few times, but I truly feel that way. Everything from Luffy being overly silly and way too loud to Nami being super sly and sneaky, Usopp's outrageous tales, and Zoro's sense of honor paired with Sanji's just deep kindness all really works well together. I am going to end this by ranking the Straw Hats. I am pretty sure that the crew grows later on. I'm not positive, but I think that they do. But I kind of want to rank the Straw Hats as they are, the 5 members. I will say this, I love them all. I think they're all fantastic, but I do have a favorite. So in this order, Usopp, Nami, Sanji, Luffy, and then Zoro. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Have you guys been reading One Piece? Are you just watching the anime? Is the anime worth the watch? Because I haven't seen that yet either. Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.